Tak se pojďme pozrieť ešte na Narka, chat, na Complete Beginner's Guide na Ashes of Creation v roku 2024, teraz na tú alfu. Je to akorát 12-minútová rýchlovka, takže to má celku zaujíma, to som ani nevidel.
So with the second wave of Phase 1 key holders entering the game, I think it's time we took some time to spread a little bit of knowledge and understanding of this highly anticipated MMORPG. But before we get into that, sit back, relax, and grab yourself a Kyola, because in today's video, we're going to be answering all things Ashes of Creation. What is this MMO all about? What can you do? How do you level? But most importantly, what the fuck is a node? Because audiences who only casually follow the game's development, or perhaps audiences who were swept up in the hype of its launch, are left with questions unanswered and no reliable way to understand where to go. And now that we've had a chance to settle into the world, let's clear that up once and for all. Now, with all that bollocks out of the way, let's begin, shall we?
Nark má úplně mega dobré úvody, musím povedať, že má jako vždycky robiť taký ten úvodný speech.
Okay, so first things first, downloading the game. Once you've purchased access to one of the 3 phases...
Jo, chat, by the way, my bychom mohli reálně už 3 dní, to je spustené teoreticky, jo, ma napadlo for content, presne z prdele, tu urobiť donation goal, vybrať $120 a kúpiť si Alphatu kľúč, aby som mohol teraz streamovať proste a hrať tú Alphatu Ashes. Ale jako $120 za to, aby som išiel testovať alfu, jakoby úplne, no,
through Ashes of Creation's website, you'll be given the option to download the client directly from there. Make sure you're logged in, and the homepage should reflect if your key currently grants you access or not. Now, for the structure of this video, I'm going to be breaking it into 3 segments. Choosing your playstyle, which explains the character creation process, archetype and combat system, progressing your character, which explains how to level, what to do, and all other activities in the game, and finally, embracing the world, which explains Ashes of Creation's most important system, the node and social elements. Once your launcher is downloaded and you're logged into the game, you're given a choice of now 8.
Vyzerá to ale na to, že toto sú všetko alpha footage, tieto veci, akoby tu, že tu vidíte. Vyzerá to mega pekne, jo, inak, akože vyzerá to mega pekne. Už teraz iba alpha
we have Ariok, Lotharia, and Shoal, which are already established servers with 2 weeks worth of progress, and Eterna, acting as a fresh server that started on the 8th of November. For NA, we have Resna, Lineth, and Vyra as already established servers with 2 weeks worth of progress, and Castus, acting as a fresh server that also started on the 8th of November. However, the North American servers also have a community understanding and have broken their servers into specific categories. Resna acts as the unofficial PvP server, Lineth acts as the unofficial streamer server hosting pirate software, SFAN and Narc, with Vyra acting as a normal server.
Že to akoby ľudia umelo rozdelili plus minus, že kde akoby je to fakt ako full, vole, fucking svety PvP, kde to je akoby proste streamer server a to.
For more of a natural experience. So now that you've chosen a server that appeals to you, next you must create your character. Your first choice is picking between this MMORPG's diverse races. Currently for Phase 1, the Empyrean Elves, Kalar Humans, and Vek Orcs are available to play.
Jo, teraz sú tam iba 3, ale potom ich tam je viac.
6 more additional races being added in future phases.
Jo, toľko rás. A budeme hrať buď nejakého trpaslíka, alebo zrzavú elfku.
Racial choices do not affect your power level in any way, shape, or form during this phase. However, each race has unique armor aesthetics that reflect their culture, and thus, racial choice has a major impact on the way that your armor and body shape look. During the character creation process, you're also given a choice of archetype to pick.
Jo, Bard, Cleric, Fighter, Mage, Tank, Ranger, Rogue, Summoner. Myslím, že títo dvaja tam ešte nie sú akoby teraz na tú alfatu, ale tí ostatní akoby tam sú.
This is the single most important and permanent choice that you cannot change. However, Ashes of Creation offers a very diverse roster of playstyles that will suit your needs. Fighter is the traditional melee DPS archetype, utilizing a plethora of melee weapons to deal devastating damage, either single target or area of effect. Their self-sustain and high burst makes them a very beginner-friendly class that offers a high skill ceiling due to the resource management. Tank is the second of Ashes of Creation's melee archetypes, specializing in the use of shields and crowd control. Tanks are highly sought after in both PvE and PvP for their ability to control the battlefield and soak significantly more damage than other archetypes in the game. This makes them more of an intermediate class to play, as a group will demand that you be switched on, and soloing is fairly tedious due to the lack of damage capabilities. The Cleric is our next archetype and acts as Ashes of Creation's main healer. They offer very powerful group utilities such as resurrection in combat, powerful single target and group healing, but also mana regeneration buffs. Because of this, Cleric is also another beginner-friendly class, as healing itself is hard to come by, giving the Cleric that edge if they get themselves into a pinch. Next up, we have the Bard archetype. This is arguably one of the most...
Jakoby, ten Bard archetype sa mi celkovo hrozně páči, jakoby v hrách, že to bude něco jako polo prostě, taky jako support, ale nie úplně healing, ale prostě bude rozdávat jako buffy a věci. Ak by bol Bard jako schopný aj na vole solo byť jako nie moc slabší, by som si aj Barda možno jako zahral z prdele, to jakoby hlavně všetci budú chceť, to bude žiadané. Ale zase jakoby buď nějakého magea alebo rangera by som si asi zahral ja najviac, no, tam prostě.
Most powerful archetypes
Všetci by povedali, že budeme hrať Rogunu, ale pritom zrovna v týchto hrách ma vždycky bavilo hrať toho rangeáka, no.
Game right now, offering an easy-to-use and very polished class kit that has powerful AoE buffs, heals, and shields, whilst also providing unique gameplay styles depending on if you're solo or in a group. Bard is easily the most beginner-friendly class. However, do not let that deter you from its potential, as the Bard in the hands of a skilled player is also a very deadly adversary. The Mage is our first of Ashes of Creation's ranged DPS archetypes, focusing purely on magic-style damage. The Mage is an intermediate-level class that requires a fair amount of setup, but has an incredible payoff when wielding fire, frost, and lightning combos correctly for amazing burst damage. The last ranged archetype in Phase 1 is the Ranger. Utilizing high mobility and a short bow or longbow, the Ranger can deal devastating damage from afar, whilst leaving enemies in their dust. Beware though, as the Ranger is most certainly an intermediate class to play right now due to tuning issues, but will most certainly receive some love as balance passes are made. The final two archetypes for Ashes of Creation are the Rogue and Summoner, but sadly, these are not currently available. The Rogue is due to arrive during Phase 2, and the Summoner is due to arrive in Phase 3.
Summoner môže byť tiež funky, ak to bude urobené niečo ako bolo v Lineageoch. Tak Summoner bol prostě, že máš furt prostě Summona jednoho veľkého a prostě toho buffuješ, healuješ a tak podobně, on to zabíja za teba a ty si iba taky jakože smrndávač, buffer a tak.
Finally, before we move on to the progression, let's briefly touch upon the gearing system, as it plays a major part to further amplify your playstyle. Each archetype can use every weapon in Ashes of...
Jo, toto sa mi páči úplne brutálno, že na každej klase, whatever it is, môžeš používať hociakú zbraň. A na každej tej zbrani budeš mať ešte iné skill tree. Rovná sa, že napríklad môžeš urobiť presne, ja neviem, magea s Great Swordom, ja neviem, veľkým, alebo proste tam behať so sekerou, s mageom, alebo niečo a urobiť tam nejaký ako byl. Jo, akože budú tam tieto kombinácie funky, no.
Of creation, and thus every weapon offers a diverse skill tree that complements certain playstyles and builds. You are not restricted in any way, and the game even offers spell power and physical versions of every weapon, so you can...
Jo, že si môžeš zobrať buď ako mage tu zbraň, alebo physical prostě na to.
And indeed, play a mage with a great sword or a bard with a mace, and you will not be penalized for your choices. Just ensure that you're using the correct damage type to gain the benefit that complements your class. This also extends to armor, so feel free to run around in heavy armor as a mage, but beware of the set bonuses available to these...
Ja som tam čítal akoby o tomto, no. To je tiež zaujímavé, že ty akoby si môžeš zvoliť, že budeš hrať magea, ktorý bude mať heavy armor a great sword kľudne a budeš to hrať akoby iným playstylom, nejakým tanky mage alebo niečo také. Ale zase tam bude presne čo aj light set alebo rob set, ktorý bude dávať niečo, bude dávať, ja neviem, movement speed a cast speed a ten ďalší bude dávať čo ešte trochu viac ako magic damage alebo niečo. Takže to môže byť funky, no, ale v tomto.
As they also further amplify certain playstyles. Now, on to the world. Currently, Phase 1 of Ashes of Creation is lacking a lot of content, as content is not the focus for development right now. Therefore, players are encouraged to grind monsters in the open world in order to level up their characters. Every time you kill a creature, you are rewarded with 3 types of experience. Archetype experience, which increases your overall level, giving you a point to spend in your archetype skill tree to unlock new spells and passives. Weapon experience, which is granted to both your melee and ranged weapons and offers you a point to spend in your weapon passive skill tree, buffing your basic weapon attacks in various ways. And finally, node experience, which is granted to the closest node and levels up the cities in the world, which eventually leads to unlocking new content. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We'll talk about nodes in a moment. As it currently stands, there are various grind spots available spread across the world, and although there's not been time to release proper info.
Jo, starting zone akoby takto. A ten svet hlavne, teraz čo je v Alpha 2, ten svet, čo tam ako teraz je nejak oddalený, je myslím, že tam dali, že to je asi 5% toho celého sveta. A už teraz ti to myslím, že trvá, neviem, či 30 minút, alebo niečo podobné, keď chceš ísť z jednej strany na druhú. A ten svet proste bude úplne obrovská vec, kde sa fakt ako často budeš aj točiť iba okolo toho svojho nejakého mesta, niečo a tam robiť. Lebo to nepôjde len tak sa dostať hoci kde, bla 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 bla.
Information where to level up, I have written up here a rough overview for you to reference if you want to know where to go. Finally, Ashes of Creation offers a diverse roster of artisan skills that further play into the node system, so I'll explain the basics before we jump into it. Artisan skills are broken into 3 types: gathering, processing, and crafting. The gathering skills are herbalism, taming, wood chopping, mining, and fishing. The processing skills are things like stonemason.
Ovec, je tam fishing! Ovec, kupuj 120 euro, rýchlo Alpha 2, fishing je tam!
Wood chopping and smelting, and the crafting skills are things like armor smithing, weaponsmithing, and scribing. I am purposefully not deep diving into the processing and crafting artisan skills for this beginner guide, as they're mostly irrelevant. However, I will note that your starting quest will explain how the gathering, processing, and crafting works as you pick up the quest Sweat of Your Brow in either Samia's Hope or Lion's Hold, rewarding your hard work with a basic horse mount to begin exploring the world of Vera, which leads us on to our final chapter. What the fuck is a node? Well, Ashes of Creation's main feature that drives its dynamic world is called the node system. Nodes are basically player-run cities that grow and expand based on player choices. We mentioned node experience earlier, and it is these locations that the experience is granted depending if you're in a particular node's zone of influence, which is the colored borders displayed upon the world map. For the purposes of Phase 1, the node system is still very rudimentary, currently capped at level 3, the village stage. However, they still play a vital part in the overall social systems, and thus I will explain to you how to get involved and begin your journey as a citizen in Vera. Upon hitting level 10, you are then eligible to become a citizen of one of 5 node locations in the Riverlands, and this can be done at the node administrator.
Jo, takto, no, že keď hitneš level 10, tak ty si akoby potom vybereš, kde chceš reálne, akože kde chceš, aby bol tvoj domov a podľa toho budeš mať nejaké ako výhody a veci, podľa toho, ako je rozšírený ten node, alebo kde chceš ty akoby sa pohybovať a tak.
Outside the town hall. The 5 Riverland nodes are called Miraleth, Winstead, Halcyon, Jova, and New Ayla. And choosing which node you want to be a citizen of is a very important choice, as currently, as of today's patch, there is a 36-hour cooldown on changing your citizenship. This means you want to join a node that contains people you either recognize or actively play with, so you can all have a central hub to live in, and this is one of the major appeals of Ashes of Creation, as the node system acts as a way to bring back that old school MMORPG feeling. The people you interact with, fight with, trade with, all remember your face, as everyone in this world is living in one layer. You will meet these people again at some point, so think carefully before you act like an asshole. But what is there to do in a node? What's the point? Well, a node needs a mayor, and the mayors are the people who decide how the node is ran. The mayor role is highly suited for guild leaders, as having a core team to
Destino, ty poprvé netušíš a po druhé to ještě napíšeš zle. Jaký kopiár Albionu. Samozřejmě, že jsou tam jakoby systémy ty vole z jiných hier a to je ta vec, že tu jako sa ide robiť možno najväčšie MMO ever s tými najlepšími vecami zo všetkých MMOčiek, ktoré tu boli v nejakom štýle. Ktoré si zobere presne z Lineageu, z Arcageu, z hocičoho. Ale to je v pohode.
To help progress your node is a key aspect of Vera's world. A mayor can adjust the taxes of a node, initiate quests, but most importantly, begin the construction of buildings.
To za mňa bude proste fakt ako mega vec, že tam bude fakt ako major, ktorého si budeš musieť zvoliť a ten bude proste rozhodovať aj čo sa ako budú stavať tam za veci, koľko budú dane, ty vole, ako budú ty vole tieto veci, takže si musíš fakt ako vybrať dobre ako mesto, ktoré ty vole tam nebude nejaký kokot, ktorý tam nastaví úplne mega dane alebo niečo.
And this is the final thing that I'm going to explain in today's video, as it is one of the most important mechanics in the entire game. You see, in order for a building to begin construction, the node itself needs specific resources. These resources are very diverse and plentiful in number, and are gained when a mayor initiates a buy order for one of them specifically. And this is what citizens will be doing for the majority of their time, using those artisan skills in order to gather materials for these specific
nodes. A prostě v skratke akoby mesto tam dá, že hej, ideme urobiť do píči tuto lepšiu krčmu, kurva, ale aby sa tam dalo, ja neviem, tier 2 žrádlo si vymyslím predávať, tak prostě kurva, potrebujeme, aby ste do toho mesta tuto vyfarmili, vole, 1000 píčo dreva a vole 50, ja neviem, prasat, kurva. A prostě tým, že to tam dáš, tak ty dostaneš nějakou odmenu a potom se to jako postaví společně a všetci potom z toho můžu benefitovat, dejme tomu, no.
Resources. Upon handing in the required materials at the requisitions agent next to the warehouse of every node, citizens are rewarded with a special node currency, which can be used to purchase armor upgrades and no doubt many other things in the future. Beware though, the materials needed to complete these buy orders are in staggering amounts, and thus this is intended to be a long-term goal for all citizens to eventually achieve, and even seek help from their fellow neighbors to assist in such a tremendous feat. Once the resources are all gathered, the mayor can then initiate the construction, and once the required wood or stone is delivered, the build completes, and the node is offered an upgrade depending on the building that the mayor chose. Generally, each server has its own Discord, which you can find linked down in the description, and these servers should clearly show which resources are needed at which node. So good luck to you, adventurer, and take note, this is merely the first phase of Ashes of Creation's Alpha 2, and development is a moving train wreck. So expect delays, bugs, and undesirable balance as Intrepid Studios work hard bringing Ashes of Creation to life. But as usual, I am just one nerd, desperate for a good MMO, and I hope this guide helped you guys get into the game a little easier. Obviously, as this is an actively developed alpha game, accurate information is very scarce. So even info in this video may be outdated within a few months. So please be kind and open to everyone interested in this highly anticipated MMO, and encourage feedback across the board. If you're looking for more intimate knowledge or have any burning questions, feel free to come ask over at twitch.tv/Narcoverse, as we're live pretty much every day talking about a game that quite literally will never release. Because
Ark má vždycky najlepšie veci, najlepšie závery, musím povedať, OK, protože vám tu ešte odkaz teda aj na Narka samotného a na to jeho video, na ten jeho kanál, kto si to chce pozrieť, hoďte mu tam kľudne nejaký ten poriadny lajčíček a podobne. Bola iba také ako beginner's guide, alebo taký ako prehľad, čo, kde, ako to funguje. Jasné, že to tam ako teraz ešte nebude dokonale v tej Alpha 2. Videl, že Pirate Software a ešte ďalšie akoby rôzne, tam majú už veci, celé gildy a klany a neviem čo všetko. ale přišlo by vtipné, že se tam jako rovnou robila drama zrovna s Asmonom, ale úplně se nečudujem, jakoby, že zrovna Asmona tam chcou jakoby kluci farmiť. Mojho chudáka Zaka, to je prostě, oni ho nenechají si zahrát Ashes of Creation. To je strašné normálně.